Have you ever been in a conversation where you feel like you're totally missing something? You're speaking the same language, but you're just not on the same page. Well, today, we're going to decode a really fascinating aspect of Korean culture that can create exactly that feeling. And we're going to figure out what's really going on.
And it all really boils down to this one simple but super confusing question. You ask for something, you get a maybe or an I'll think about it, and you walk away with hope. But then, nothing happens. So what's the deal? Let's get to the bottom of it. All right, so let's set the scene. This is a classic situation for anyone new to Korean culture, and it almost always starts with what feels like a simple miscommunication. Does this sound familiar? Picture this. You ask a coworker for a little help on a project, and they say, I'll have to check my schedule. You think, awesome, they're actually considering it. But here's the thing. In their mind, the conversation might have already been over. And it's this gap between what you expect and what's really happening that gets so confusing. So, what is going on here? Are they just being evasive or avoiding you? Probably not. The answer actually lies in a pretty big cultural difference, prioritizing social harmony over being direct.
The easiest way to wrap your head around this is with the idea of low context versus high context cultures. It sounds a little academic, I know, but it's actually pretty simple. In low context places like the US or Germany, people tend to say what they mean. The words are the main event. But in high context cultures like Korea, the words are just one clue. The real meaning is wrapped up in the context, the relationship, the situation, the body language. You're expected to read the situation, not just hear the words.
And that really gets to the why of it all. The main goal is often to protect everyone's kibun. Now, kibun is a really interesting concept. It's tied to mood, pride, feelings, your social face. And a blunt, direct no can really feel jarring. It can disrupt the harmony of the group. So a softer, more indirect way of communicating is almost always the way to go. Okay, so if the words don't always carry the true meaning, then how on earth does anyone understand each other? Well, it all comes down to this kind of cultural superpower that makes the whole thing work. And that superpower has a name, Nunchi. This is the secret key. It's the skill that everyone is expected to have and to use to navigate all of these subtle, nuanced social interactions. So what is Nunchi exactly? Well, the literal translation is eye measure, which I think is just perfect. It's the subtle art of using your eyes and really all of your senses to measure the room. It's about quickly picking up on the vibe, the unspoken feelings, and what's really being communicated underneath all the words. I absolutely love this description. It's more than just a skill. It's like having a finely tuned social antenna. You're constantly scanning your surroundings, picking up on these tiny signals that most people might miss. If you have good nunchi, you can move through any social situation with grace. If you have no nunchi, well, things can get a little awkward. Okay, so defining it is one thing, but what does nunchi actually look like in the real world? Let's check out a few examples of nunchi in action. And boom, we're right back where we started, with our mystery. That I'll think about it wasn't a lie. It was a response totally driven by nunchi. The person you asked used their social antenna, they understood that a flat no would create an awkward moment, so they chose a softer reply. The unspoken expectation was that you would use your nunchi to pick up on the real meaning. Think about the workplace. Good nunchi is absolutely critical there. It's not about waiting for your boss to say, I'm busy. It's about looking up, seeing their posture, sensing the stress, and just knowing now is not the time. It's about feeling the energy in a meeting before you pitch your crazy new idea. It's all about reading the room to act at the right time. And it's just as vital with friends and family. I mean, we all have that one friend who just knows when something's up, even when you say, nope, I'm fine. That's nunchi. It's also knowing when a party is winding down and it's time to make a graceful exit. It's really about being deeply tuned in to the people around you. So after all that, what's the big takeaway here? How do you actually use this? Well, it comes down to a really important shift in how you pay attention. At the end of the day, it's this. You have to stop listening with just your ears. You have to start listening with your eyes, with your intuition. You have to listen to the whole situation. The words, they're just one piece of the data. The real message is so often hidden in the tone of voice, the look in someone's eyes, and the entire context of your relationship. And this brings us to one last final thought. While Nunchi is a Korean word, the actual concept,
It's not exclusively Korean, right? Every culture on Earth has its own set of unspoken rules, its own version of reading the room. So the real question to think about is, what does Nunchi look like where you're from? What are the things you're just expected to know without ever being told?